low angle to the TV so that the TV is offset, and so that the images progressively get flatter as it goes into the tunnel of the abyss that is. But it does still need to have a sharp image to work from. So now we've kind of got it working. There we go. This flight simulator, if you will, is kind of just point the camera where you want to go. If you want to turn left like that, just kind of tilt the camera left a little bit. If you want to speed up, zoom the camera in a little bit, and you'll be going way too fast to do it.
Okay, so what this reminds me of is like the way thoughts work, you know, where it's like you have the camera pointing at the object that displays what the camera's showing, and eventually, the longer you focus on it, eventually you come to the point where it's like just reflections of reflections of reflections, repeating infinitely, right? An infinite fractal, like a Mandelbrot fractal. And this really reminds me of the way, like, the thoughts work, the thoughts operate.
What you are about to see is an example of recursive VHS degradation. Right now, you are looking at generation 1. The picture and the sound are still completely clean. But if we switch over to a second generation copy, we see the apparent loss in picture quality, and the sound has now also lost some clarity. If we continue this trend, more and more generational loss will take its toll on the recording. Shall we begin?
So, again, what this reminds me of is sort of like the way, I don't know, I was immediately kind of reminded of maybe the way Alzheimer's patients eventually begin losing themselves, kind of in their own minds, in a way. Same with this, where you spend a lifetime thinking about thoughts instead of letting them pass through you, like water flowing through your fingers. You cling on to these memories, cling on to nostalgia, and eventually you end up with degradation, generational loss, right? I don't know, this, to me, they're intrinsically linked, like this idea of kind of thought fractals and generational generation loss of the mind, of the thoughts, you know. Something to think about.
And now, our feature presentation.
It's the singing donut, man!
Reality, captured in user-friendly symbols and processed for understanding.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Rudy here. Kind of want to talk about a few things while I drive. I got to run an errand into town. Figured I'd fire up my recorder application on my phone. See what I can get into. Pretty interesting range of topics that Kirk brought up last night. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Journey to the West, so I don't even know what that is. Like, I didn't even Google it after the fact. I might look it up later, but like I said, I've never heard of it, so I can't even comment on that. That's why I didn't, when I left a comment on this video, I didn't mention it, because it's, well, like, I got nothing to say about it. Never even heard of it. Because I'm an uncultured swine, I guess. But it wouldn't surprise me, you know, honestly, like, these stuffed Lenins, Humpty Dumptys, as Matt would put it, have been presented to us since forever. I'm pretty sure the Bible is like a Humpty Dumpty in a way. You know, the story of Jesus and all that, and Moses is like Adam and Eve. I think you know, the Bible gets made fun of a whole lot for the kind of sort of ridiculous story. If you take the story of Adam and Eve at face value, where, you know, this this guy named God or whatever, this creator, brings to life these creations and tells them not to eat from a tree, right? So it's like, and then a serpent approaches the woman and basically tricks her to getting them kicked out of what's essentially paradise or heaven, right? On the surface level, it's kind of stupid, and it is stupid. I won't argue about that. On the surface, it's surface level shit, right? Without getting into the esoteric or the metaphysical, or, as I like to put it, the allegory, the living mythology that I believe the Bible is. Like, the Bible is basically just a reflection of human mythology, okay? Without bringing that up, on face value, it's really stupid. And in a Humpty Dumpty, it's like a stuffed Lenin. It's just put out into the world for all the dummies to digest, and for all the idiot Christians to take literally, and all of that, right? I talk about that a whole lot. Dummy Christians who love to take their Bible literally, and they're all a bunch of dingbats, peanut butter brain morons. In essence, me included, right? That's besides the point. Like I said, Journey to the West, never heard of it. I might look it up later. And to be honest, I'm not really familiar with Dragon Ball, like the original Dragon Ball. I don't think I've seen a single episode of Dragon Ball. Like most people, I want to say they get into the Dragon Ball series through Z. You know, the Saiyan saga and the Frieza saga and all that. Vegeta and trying to take over the world and blah, blah, blah. The classics, right? The Android saga and all that. And I kind of know this Dragon Ball Z series up to Cell, the Cell games, and that's kind of it. And really, I really know the abridged version, going from being a fan of Dragon Ball Z abridged. That's kind of where my knowledge ends, is that parody series. But anyway, the Red Ribbon Army, like, I'm not familiar with Dragon Ball too much, but the Red Ribbon Army, when you mentioned Kirk, I'm talking to Kirk, when Kirk mentioned, what was it, Red Pharmaceuticals, I was immediately hit by, you know, like, Chinese pharmaceuticals, Chinese, you know, world influence kind of imagery in my head, just right away. And I was kind of surprised he didn't catch that, which is fine. You know, this is the point, right, of kind of having this back and forth where we kind of point out to each other, like, these kind of weird things that we think of when we hear these words. Like, if you were to give me an ink blot test and you say Red Pharmaceuticals, I would immediately think of the Chinese, you know, with their red flag, or the Russians with their, you know, communism is usually associated with the color red for some reason. You know, telling the creepiness behind that, right? But anyway, kind of a weird dynamic between the colors red and blue. Like, red is evil and blue is good, right? But not to talk about politics too much, but I've always been told growing up that the Democrats were the good guys, right? And they're the blue guys, right? The guys in blue. Like, the cops are associated with the color blue. Like, I remember Ninja Turtles episodes would call them the boys in blue. Even though the cops were kind of villainized in a way in Ninja Turtle series. like the old 80s cartoon, the 90s, early 90s, late 80s cartoon. But I think the whole series kind of does that with the Ninja Turtles series. I'm a millennial, okay? So my frame of reference is going to be cartoons, like 80s, 90s cartoons and commercials, because that's what I was raised on. That's my mother put me in front of a television, and that's what I watched. So my frame of reference is going to be that kind of stuff, video games from that era, etc. Which is kind of cringe, right? But it is what it is. Anyway, the red versus blue thing, and that dynamic, he mentioned T-Fortress 2 as well. The red versus blue. He didn't mention. I don't think he mentioned red versus blue, but red versus blue has always been a separation, right? Like a diversity, actual diversity, like DI-versity. Instead of, you know how we got the word universe, we got the word diverse now. Diversity is meaning to separate. So diversity is everything but what they say it is. But red and blue, to me, like the true meaning of diversity, which is to split apart, which is to separate and split apart. That's what diversity means. So these idiots telling you diversity is about inclusion, and what's the other one? DI. What is it? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Right. So equity and inclusion are like the complete opposites of the word diversity. Well, if you were to go the literal breakdown of the word diversity, meaning two verses, right? Two verses. Instead of universe, we got diverse. They got diversity. All right, pretty simple. So red versus blue, good versus bad. They always want us to... I made a previous video. It seems like I'm all over the place, but in a previous recording, I talked about how you need to let go of your precepts, meaning your kind of preconceived notion of the world, your original foundation. Like, you got to tear your old foundation down and kind of have an open mind to like what the true meaning of what's going on in the world right now. So this red versus blue dichotomy thing is kind of part of that, where we're told all our lives it's good versus bad, red versus blue, good versus evil, right? And the red versus blue thing, like in politics, get back to politics real quick, where it's Republicans versus Democrats, the red versus blue. Again, like, and then you got communist red, right? The evil guys or whatever. And the Republicans and the Democrats. And right now, at least to me, your opinion might be different than mine. I don't know. For the most part, I don't really care about politics, but I'm saying, like, from the way it stands, like, Republicans and conservatives seem to be like the good guys, right now, even though they're human beings, they're flawed asshole dickheads, just like any of us, right? So the word good is like bullshit to begin with, is my point. Like, they fill our heads with visions of sugar plums and candy canes from a very early age about what a good person is, quote unquote. So the I don't know what the point of that was. I kind of lost track of what I was talking about. But anyway, I think that's a interesting subject to begin with, so I'm going to leave that in just as is, even though I'm just going to be a ramble, guys. Think of this as a variety show, only I'm driving instead of being at my computer, and I don't have anything in front of me to look at. I'm literally just driving down the road. So this is on the fly. This is just off the top of my head, so it's going to be variety show ramble. I'll even put my little kitty cat intro and with the donuts and all that. What else did Kirk talk about? Testing. To get back into it, I lost a bit of my recording. I got cut off, but I do sleep. To get back into it, what I was talking about before, in the part of the recording that got cut off, what I was talking about mainly was what Kirk brought up about Sega removing their games from... What are we doing? Sega removing their games from Steam, which is like... I have to assume it's their Genesis ROM collection and I know this for a fact. It's the part of their Dreamcast collection, which would be Jet Set Radio, Jet Grind Radio. I think it's called Sega Bass Fishing, Sega's Real Fishing, something or other. And Space Channel 5, games like that. So there's this like when I heard about it, I already knew just right away, even before watching Kirk's video, where it was like it's a erasing of old history, right? Erasing of the old world, or what video games used to be like. And when it happened, I didn't really give a shit. Like, I already own those games anyway. Own, quote unquote. I own well, I don't own them, but I have the files, rather, of these games, and so it doesn't affect me whatsoever. I have all the Sonic games, all these Dreamcast games, so it's whatever. Sonic Adventure 2, etc. So the shit didn't really matter to me. It's just whatever. But it matters to a lot of people out there, just because of the preservation, right? Kind of passing along to future generations. And that's what upsets people. It's like they're seeing it's like almost like erasing history. And from what I understood, Sega doesn't have plans to do anything with the games. At least they're not telling us whether they're going to make them available in the future in some kind of big Sega collection like Atari did recently, or like I don't know, Sega Top 50 or some bullshit like that. So they haven't announced anything like that, which is concerning to people because they want to know if their games are being permanently gone, for future generations, right? But it's just let's take Space Channel 5 for instance. You got the sexy reporter, right? She's got her little skirt on and her midriff, and that doesn't mesh well with the current neoliberalism that's going on right now, where we don't want sexy characters. Just as a callback of the censorship thing, we don't want sexy characters on the forefront in any possible way. We don't want people looking at this video game history and being like, oh my god, look at this girl, this white girl with a little skirt and her bare midriff showing. That's attracting the male gaze, or whatever the fuck they like to say now. And I'm not saying it's literally that. I'm just saying they're getting rid of the potential for those kind of conversations in the future. And Space Channel 5 is pretty niche, kind of obscure video game to begin with. I grew up with that, like I owned it. I remember getting it. I think maybe I got it like in a bargain bin for like $5. Kind of towards the end of the Sega Dreamcast's lifespan, which wasn't very long to begin with. I mean, that console only lasted like 2 years before they sold out to Microsoft. And that was probably, to me, like honestly, I honestly think that Sega was positioned to fail in that way when it came to the Dreamcast. Like it really, and this is, what's funny about that? I kind of remember what I was talking about before. These video game journalists, and I brought this up in Kirk's comment section as well, where these video game journalists and these red pill dudes and these black pill dudes and all of these political commentator assholes take all of this so seriously. They don't see like the trick, like when they're talking about the Dreamcast and how it only lasted 2 years and Sega just sold out to Microsoft. I say, yeah, dude, it's all on purpose. That was all on purpose in order to extract energy, in order to get your emotions involved. It's like, and I was like, when the Dreamcast went away after 2 years, it's like, what the fuck? I just bought this console. Granted, I only spent like $130 for it. I think it was $140 at the time, which was really cheap, like compared to nowadays. That's ridiculous. The price even went down to $50 at one point. I think after like a year and a half, like the last 6 months of the Dreamcast lifespan, it was down to $50 fucking dollars, man. And that's a crazy price for a video game console. And the Dreamcast has a pretty solid library to begin with. So it's like, man, if you caught the Dreamcast when it was $50, like you got super lucky. But I think they were I believe they were set up on purpose, either by the Not Milk or whatever dark, creepy entity you want to call it, to fail, to just be sold off to Microsoft. a lot of people like to blame piracy. Like, it was really super easy to copy Sega CD games, not Sega CD games, Dreamcast discs to a regular CD, like just burn it onto a CD. It was super easy. It was ridiculous. Like, the Dreamcast had very, very poor anti-piracy firmware or software, whatever you want to call it. The firmware involved, probably called firmware, right? But these game journalists, right? They don't understand that. They don't think outside their bookends, like Matt likes to say. They don't think outside their precepts, because they were given an adversary already. They were given the wokeness, or they were given let's say greed, right? Greed's a good one. The word greed is a really good straw man, where you'll have these video game commentators who are like, you know, Sega's just so dumb that they just erased their whole library on Steam, and they're not going to put it in a separate collection for us, and they're just so stupid, and they don't like money, and if they just sold their ROMs at $2 a pop, I would buy them. They're just so stupid. It's like that kind of mentality. It's like, they're not stupid, dude. It's like they're doing it on purpose. Like, and the same goes for like the red-pilled guys or the black-pilled guys. It's like they think that wokeness was about profits and money or something, and it wasn't. It wasn't about profits. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about ESG money. It wasn't about BlackRock money. It wasn't about any of that. It was about destruction and erasing of history and energy collecting and energy farming. That's literally all it was about. Same thing with this video game thing and GameStop and their shenanigans. And nobody fucking likes GameStop, yet they're still around. How does that work? Y'all motherfuckers want to explain that to me? You video game journalists, you're so fucking smart, right? Like, how do you explain the fact that nobody likes GameStop and it's still around? Let that one stew in your noggin for a bit. Fucking idiots, man. What the hell? But to get back into it, it's like we're at a very early age, right? And I brought this up in Kirk's comments section, where it's like a very, very early age. And this is going to seem unrelated, but I think I have a point with this, where it's like, okay, it's gonna seem stupid, but I promise you it's related. So I want to say maybe the late 80s, probably the late 80s, or it's probably started in the 70s, where they were trying to take prayer out of school and take God out of the schools, right? And all the Christians and all the whoever's got up in arms about it. Like, how dare they remove God from the schools? In God we trust, right? Or whatever. How dare they remove the Bible? They remove prayer. When, and I've talked about this in a previous video, probably over 2 years ago by this point, or over a year ago at least, where I talked about how like, they weren't removing God from the schools. They were removing the discussion of the adversary, the true adversary. And Christians will say that it's Lucifer, right? Lucifer or Satan. The guys, the men and women in the truther community like to call it not milk. So they're trying to remove the discussion of the devil, because if you remove God from the schools, that means you can't talk about his antithesis, right? You can't talk about Satan. Can't talk about Lucifer anymore. So they removed that, and now they hand you a book. They hand you a whole bunch of books with all these villains, right? Napoleon Bonaparte's or whatever, Napoleon Bonaparte's, and the mustache man from Germany, that guy. It's like they hand you all these villains, right? They say, oh, look at these villains between your bookends. And that's what I mean by the straw man. They offer you a straw man in replace of the actual dark entity. So they get your mind away from that and get your mind locked into the bookends of, oh, mustache man bad, oh, Napoleon bad, oh, China bad, oh, communist bad, ding, 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 communism bad, oh, red bad, Republicans bad, right? So they got that going in your noggin. So they start drilling that shit into your head from K to 12. all because they got rid of, this is going to seem like a stretch, y'all, but all because they got rid of the discussion of God from the schools. And that was all on purpose. This wasn't about, I mean, part of it was about, but part of it was about the being anti-Christian and hating Christians. There's like, I can't think of a more, we're making jokes in the last presentation where Gooners was like the most hated people on the internet and in the world right now. And I think Christians will take up the number 2 slot. I'm not going to get into that really, because that's not what I want to focus on right now. But I, honest to God, think Christians will take up that number 2 slot right next to Gooners. That's kind of funny when I put it that way. Like the chronic masturbators and the Christians are almost like on the same level of getting the public hatred. It's so funny. Life is fucking weird like that. But anyway, so it was all on purpose. Take God out of the school. You remove the discussion of Lucifer, right? The dark entity, or the not milk. That way, all these people growing up into adults, their minds don't default to that. They default to the history books, or within the bookends, or the big companies, or oil, or big pharma, or blah blah blah. They set you up with all these straw men that you can go punch with your fists, right? Like, oh, there's the bad guy, there's the straw man, go hit him. And then when you knock over the straw man, you can pretend like you win something, right? You won the big prize. You defeated the wokeism. You defeated the blue-haired fucking septum ring in their nose idiots, right? The half-haired whatever dykes, bull dykes. It's like, you got him, dude. You win. Where's my prize? Like, oh wait, there's the adversary was like 100 miles away, past the straw man. There's another straw man. Get him. It's like, from straw man to straw man, they just got you so distracted. Not you, but they got everyone else so distracted and so hypnotized by what's within the bookends, right? I don't know, man. It's just, that's what I mean by you gotta let go of your precepts. Like, destroy your foundation of what you think the adversary truly is. Whether it be big pharma, or big oil, or Republicans, or Democrats, or these blue-haired woke lesbians, or whatever, man, or these, limp-wristed, weak liberal men. It's like, yeah, we can talk about them and have fun with it, but at the end of the day, it's like the true adversary. Where's the true adversary? And it's not something you really have to seek. It's something that you have to actually look within to find. Just to get back on another topic here. So I'm a fan of, okay, it's still recording. I'm a fan of video games, right? I've talked about video games before. And one of the series, whoops. One of the series I really like is classic Castlevania, which would be like, let's say the Castlevania games, which is a video game series on the Nintendo. Castlevania games from the late 80s, probably up until the 2000s-ish. Around the time the DS came out, Nintendo DS came out. So we got Castlevania 1, 2, and 3 from the Nintendo. I'm a huge fan of those games. Kind of just fuck it. I don't like Super Castlevania for the Super Nintendo. I just never liked that game. Rondo of Blood, I don't really like that game. So I kind of pick and choose which Castlevania games I like, right? Symphony of the Night, it's a really, really good one for the PS1. It's another good one. Oh, the DS games, those are all incredible. Like, the Game Boy Advance games are good as well. So, I'm a fan. I would say I'm a fan with quotes around it. Because I'm not a super fan. Now, what I mean by super fan is this, there's a Netflix series that came out recently, which is the anime based on Castlevania 3, the story of Castlevania 3 involving Alucard and Trevor Belmont and what's that girl's name? Sypha Benavides or Benaldez or something like that. Her name changes depending on the translation, but I'm a fan of that series up to a point, because when the anime came out, I didn't give a fuck. Like, I don't care about, like, despite the fact that I'm a fan of Castlevania 3, like, that's my favorite game overall. NES, Nintendo, Castlevania 3, that's just the best to me. Awesome game, I played, fired up anytime. Maybe I'll do that on my channel sometime. But when the anime came out and the little Netflix series came out, I didn't care. It's like, I don't care. They're gonna fuck it up in some way, and turns out they did. They're gonna fuck it up in some way that I'm not gonna like it, and I'm just gonna be annoyed by it. So I'm not gonna give it any attention, which I haven't, other than me talking about this. But the problem is, any video from the past 2 years that gets recommended to me via YouTube that involves Castlevania, it's gonna talk about the Netflix series at some point, and it's getting super annoying. Like, there's one video last night, for instance. This is why I'm talking about this, because it happened last night where the guy's about to talk about the classic Castlevania series, 1, 2, and 3 from the Nintendo, and like within a minute, maybe within 2 minutes, he started talking about the Netflix adaptation of Castlevania 3, or the whatever, and I just clicked off the video. It's like, no, I'm so tired of hearing about this Netflix series, and it's like I can't even enjoy Castlevania anymore because of this modern shit. And to me, and I hadn't seen it, y'all, but I can already tell you, this Netflix series has done something to fuck it up. All right, and it's there to fuck it up on purpose, because it wants to destroy the creators, the writers, whoever, the dark entity that are manipulating, that are working through these people, and they don't even realize it. They're out to destroy the Castlevania series, and I don't even have to watch it to know that. And I may seem like I'm being arrogant right now by just saying that I know they're trying to destroy it. I just know it. But the patterns are there, guys. Like, think of all the things you used to like back in the 90s, maybe even early 2000s, that's just completely fucking ruined now with this modernism woke shit. Not even the woke shit, it's just modern writing, like millennial writing, and these late Gen Zers, they just can't fucking, they're just a bunch of talentless assholes. And it's like, what the fuck? I can't even enjoy things anymore. It's like for instance, like I'm trying to watch this guy I never heard of on YouTube talk about Castlevania, and I can't even do that because he mentions the stupid fucking Netflix thing damn near immediately. So just to kind of vent about that, I'm pretty sure y'all have examples as well of this kind of nonsense. I'm just gonna sit here in the parking lot for a minute. But just to kind of wrap it around what I was saying earlier about destruction, like legacy, destruction of the legacies, man. Like we can't enjoy anything now. Like I just want to live in a little cave with my fucking video games and be left the hell alone. Like it's funny when Matt makes a joke about his stove making his fire bricks and his stove making stuff. Where he says, I'd rather stack thousands of bricks all day than deal with the not Nilkins. Yeah, man, I get it. Like I'd rather have a PC, controller, monitor, all that, in a little cave by myself, like a petabyte of just old media, old Nintendo games, old video games, old movies, whatever. 90s shows. I'd rather just have that and just sit in a fucking cave by myself than deal with the not Nilk. And we're dealing with the not Nilk. That's it. That's the thing. Like, we're dealing with the not Nilk every time they make a new adaptation of an old movie or an old TV show or an old video game. And Kirk mentioned Silent Hill 2, and I'm not familiar with Silent Hill at all. So I gotta just take people's word for it. Like, I gotta take Kirk's word for it. And he's pretty trustworthy. But he kind of got secondhand information as well, so take it with a grain of salt, right? I'll take his word for it that they just completely fucked up the way the game plays and the survival horror aspect and the themes. Like, I heard there was a lot of like Mother Mary, like Virgin Mary / Mary the prostitute kind of dichotomy, like symbology. Mary, there's 2 Marys in the Bible, right? That were kind of around Jesus. They just represent the feminine, which is Mother Mary, the Virgin Mother, and the prostitute Mary, which is more the sexualized kind of, what guys want, right? What the subconscious wants when it comes to men. They want the mother figure, the mommy figure to take care of them, right? Give me milk, I want milkies kind of thing. And they want the sexualized kind of fantasy, the provocative, kind of slutty version of the feminine. And those are the kind of polar opposites. That's what Mary in the Bible represents, okay? It's not about the literal Virgin Mother Mary who just baby popped out of her womb even though she never had sex. It's not about that, okay? And it's not about Mary Magdalene the prostitute getting stoned in the middle of town and Jesus saves her, right? It's not about that either. Like, come on, guys. It's the Bible is not to be taken so damn literally. It's just this, dichotomy. And I heard that kind of that allegory metaphor is in Silent Hill 2 concerning the main protagonist. That's what I heard. I don't really know, but it wouldn't surprise me because that's just the repeating themes, right? That a lot of writers are kind of using, and maybe they don't realize it, and maybe they do, right? I'm not so smart, but just to get back onto another topic, same topic on video games. 22 minutes. So video games, and I'm not like, so I'm a fan of, how do I put this again? Fan in quotes, fan in like 20 quotes on each side of the word fan. I'm a fan of Pokemon. The Pokemon games, like the older games. When I say older, I mean Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and that's kind of where the fascination ends. That's why I say I'm a fan, quote unquote, because I just like the games. And this is a callback to what I was talking about with the Castlevania series, where I just play the games because I like the games. I don't necessarily like the entire series or the entire fandom or the merchandise. Like, I don't give a fuck about Pokemon plushies or the fan art, or I don't have all 900 and something Pokemon memorized or whatever number it's up to. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. I just like the gameplay. I like the game flow. I like the idea of collecting monsters and having them fight each other. It's like dogfighting, right? So I like the idea of the RPG mechanics and the leveling up and having different abilities and exploring a world and coming up with different team compositions, or maybe figuring out the meta a little bit. I enjoy the meta just a tiny bit, not too autistic, right? Because I don't want to go full-blown autism when it comes to Pokemon, because that's like a rabbit hole that I don't want to get into. But I'm a fan of the Pokemon games, and strictly the games, in a very specific like time frame of games. That 90s, early 2000s Pokemon games. I don't care about the trading cards. I don't care about Pokemon Go. I just don't give a fuck. Like, I don't care. I don't care about the anime. I just like the games, right? This goes back to kind of a callback to the Castlevania thing, where I just enjoy the games for what they are. I'm not a super fan. I don't want to watch the Netflix series. I don't want to read the lore, I don't want to debate. I don't want to join some fandom and debate with a bunch of fucking assholes about who's got the bigger cock or whatever. It can be interesting, like lore can be interesting, but other than that, I don't care, man. Like, whatever. I just want to enjoy things for what they are. Like, let's bring up another game, Goonies 2. Goonies 2 for the Nintendo. I'm like a fucking fanboy of that game. I love that game. Like, one of the best Metroidvanias I've ever played. It's super fun. I can pick it up right now and have a really good time. Beat it within like 40 minutes to an hour. It's just fun to me. But if let's say I was a super fan of the Goonies, I would probably hate Goonies 2, because Goonies 2's got nothing to do with the movie. It doesn't even have anything to do with the first game that came out on the Famicom in Japan. It's like, but I like Goonies 2 for the game itself. I'm not doesn't mean I'm like a super fan of the Goonies. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the same thing with Pokemon, same thing with these Castlevania games. I just like the games. But that's beside that. I digress, I guess. One last thing I want to kind of mention. the magenta. It's kind of funny when Kirk was talking about Red Ribbon Army and all of that, and when he brought up red, what was it? Red pharmaceuticals. Yeah, I immediately thought of like communism, like red China or whatever. So I immediately thought of Chinese pharmaceuticals, nonsense, C to the V and all that. I was like, oh shit, it's like so blatantly obvious. And the red ribbon thing, 2 R's put together, that's 1818, that's 2 9s, 99, sometimes used as a allegory for 66. I left that comment, I talked about all that, but the magenta, the character's name is Magenta, and he's the one who released the Cell Max character, which is like a combination of machine and biology, like a biological creature, like Cell from Dragon Ball Z. And when he mentioned that there was 2 androids that you play as at the beginning, where they're like good guys, and I was like, oh yeah, that's the AI, dude. The androids, I think the androids represent like the AI in some way, where the AI is kind of good / neutral maybe, and the magenta influence like creates a new AI or an advanced AI that's more biological in nature. I don't know. That's just what I thought of as I was watching Kirk's presentation, or his whatever you want to call it, his talk. But to get back to the magenta thing, Matt mentions it a whole lot. Like every other video is magenta, but I don't see it in my reality at all. Like maybe I'm just not paying attention, but usually, like this other dude, for instance, I'm not gonna say his name because him and I aren't getting along. And I like to keep it that way because he went off the deep end. Kirk already knows what I'm talking about. But this other guy, he was noticing fractals in his reality. Like, it was like a banana fractal and a duck fractal and all that. And those started appearing in my reality. Like, just without, it wasn't even a case of, what's it called? Suggestive, it wasn't even a case of suggestion. It was just like very obvious. And this magenta thing isn't happening like that with me. Like, Matt mentions it a lot, and Kirk has mentioned it too, and it's like, I don't see the magenta in my reality at all. And I think it's just a case, is it really just a case of solipsism when it comes to us having separate reality bubbles? Like, we just really, like the cat fractal, right? Like, y'all don't really talk to me too much about the cats, but Kirk, I think Kirk has a cat that he mentioned. He seemed very standoffish with his cat for some reason. Maybe I misunderstood his body language, but I've seen people who aren't cat people react to cats. And Kirk, talking to him directly, Kirk, you had a reaction where you seem, at least I think it was a cat, it must have been, you seem to have like a reaction where it was like hesitation, like you were almost hesitant to even interact with this animal. I don't know, maybe I'm misunderstanding, right? Maybe you can reply to that, because I want to know, because that was kind of strange to me, your little body language and your reaction to the cat. Like I said, I guess it was a cat, maybe it was a dog, but I don't think so, because dogs tend to be a lot more noisy. But I may be wrong. Whatever animal that was, just let me know. But the cat thing, like for instance, it's in my reality, and it's quieted down a whole lot. Like the cat has quieted down a whole lot in my reality right now. And it is kind of weird, because it was so active for like a solid year, maybe like a year and like 3 months or so, where the cat fractal was fucking crazy, like non-stop every day. And I'm not, and I was like, am I projecting this? Am I just fucking a Looney Tunes and I'm imagining this shit? And it's like, no, because it's stopped. Like the cat fractal kind of stopped for me, which is fine. Like, it'll start up again, it always does. But like, how many people, I don't think it's suggestion. I think we literally live in separate like reality bubbles. And it is almost like a case of solipsism when it comes to reality. because reality has to generate via the senses, through our senses. And from our senses, we then have an agreement of what the reality is. Kirk used the example once of like a video game where you encounter, I don't remember exactly what he said, but you encounter a brick wall, but you're walking down the road, you encounter a brick wall in a video game, but the wall didn't exist until you got into its periphery. Like you got into, it's not its periphery, but it's draw distance, right? You start seeing it at a distance, and that's when it spawns. But it also spawned, it may have spawned before that for somebody else, maybe like 100 yards away. It already spawned for them. So now you have an agreement that there's this wall here, there's this building here in the middle of the desert or wherever. Now there's this building here for both of y'all. And it's not like y'all are agreeing with each other with your voices, right? Like, hey, there's a building here. It's nothing like that. It's since we're in a simulation, right? It's almost like the reality code in the background has like a handshake between entities, between spiritual beings. It's like, okay, there's a building here, and it's handshake about it. Yeah, good job. Now there's a building here, and then another person comes. Oh, hey, there's a building here. Yeah, I see it too. So it's like a spiritual handshaking. Just call it spiritual because I'm not sure what to call it. But it's almost like a program, right? Where all these different entities agree that the building is here, and now their separate realities are generating that building. So they go into the building, and from there they have agreements of what's in the building and all that. And it's not, like I said, this all happens within nanoseconds. That real spiritual beings are having these moments. And maybe the reality has to pause a whole bunch, and maybe that's how Mandela effects occur. That's how retrocausality occurs. That's how synchronicities occur. Like I said before, all of that is just error correcting code for this reality. I think I'm making myself clear with that. So the magenta is not in my reality. So it's like, despite the fact that I now have multiple YouTubers, people on the internet talking about magenta, it's still not in my reality. It's like there's like there's like a lack of a handshake, so to speak, a metaphysical handshake, where it's like I acknowledge, like, okay, I believe y'all, don't get me wrong, like Matt McKinley and Kirk, like I believe y'all when, and it was very very in our face, right, where Kirk noticed the magenta in the Dragon Ball Z cutscene. I mean the Dragon Ball whatever cutscene, it wasn't Dragon Ball Z, but it's like, yeah, I can see it. Like in Matt McKinley, when he shows us his magenta stuff, it's like, okay, yeah, I see it. I see it. I agree with you, but it's not happening in my bubble. Like, if I were to get away from my computer and walk out the door, I'm not experiencing magenta yet, or anywhere else. You know, or whether it be watching TV shows or going outside or whatever, it's like I'm not seeing magenta like at all. And it's very strange. I find it very strange because to me this kind of proves that it's not a case of projection, or it's not a case of suggestion. Like my cat fractal, it's definitely affecting other people, either going back in time in the past or in the present when I talk about it. Because Morgan, I forget his last name, I'll just call him Morgan. One of the guys, I did a community post about him, where the cat fractal's affecting him, where he found these two statues, one of a sphinx and one of a black cat, at like a thrift store when he was out shopping with his mom. And he found these two cats. And he's been talking about cats lately. And you can go check him out. I'll leave a link in the description. I forgot his last name. He goes by Morgan something or other. Sounds kind of Frenchish. He may be watching. Shout out to him. But my cat fractal, and I'm not taking ownership of it, I'm just saying my suggestion of talking about the cat fractal has been affecting him. And he hasn't acknowledged it, which is fine, he don't have to, but he is noticing cats more often. And it was amazing that he found these two statues, the black cat and the black sphinx. And that was super cool. I just forget about the cat fractal thing for a moment. I thought those little statues were super cool. I'll put a picture here. Even though it's mostly gonna be a black video. I don't know, guys. You tell me what you think. Because like I said, I don't think these fractals or these experiences are our suggestion. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the magenta thing is like the one thing I haven't noticed, even after listening to Matt McKinley for so long. It's just not there. Like I don't see it. I don't experience it. And it's not like I keep my eye out for it, but you'd think I would notice something like that. I don't know, man. I think that's it for this recording, guys. It's a shame I lost maybe 7 minutes of part of this recording. I think I covered what I wanted to talk about in that missing recording. So I think that's it, guys. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Like I said, variety show, kind of ramble, stream of consciousness deal. I'm going to put my little intro with the cats and the donuts and all that, because I like that a lot. I think it's adorable. I want to make more. I'm going to make more AI generated stuff. Oops. I'm going to make more AI generated cats and whatnot so I can make another intro, because I find it really entertaining. I don't see AI as some kind of adversary. Anyway, y'all take it easy. Bye-bye.